hello, welcome back for another live stream of Our Toronto, and today we're going to be discussing the Eglinton West Extension and the Yonge line, the Yonge University Line 1 extension into Richmond Hill. So let's get started here. I'll start playing the video here on the side so we can just watch it as I go through your comments and your feedback, and we're going to have some discussion about it. Okay, so let's get started here with the first comment that was made by Paul Evie 8628, who says your videos and content is getting better. This video is great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And David Alginger 113 writes, if I were Premier of Ontario, not only would I be linking this line to the airport, but I'd also push for the extension of Line 6 to both the airport and Yonge Street. That is a very good point, and something that I did miss in the video. I think that extending the LRT from Finch West at Kiel, where it originates or terminates, it should also be extended to Yonge Street to make that connection. I think that that would be very good, and I completely agree with that, because that's a lot of buses that they're running on that stretch as well, and that would really increase connectivity for passengers traveling through the city. But the airport just makes too much sense, in my opinion. So the next we have Anirudh Sharma, H60, who writes, every transit project in Toronto is a money laundering pit full of corruption. I don't know if each and every one is, but we certainly, some of the decisions that are being made and how much it's costing are pretty questionable, I must admit. I can't imagine this level of incompetence in a so-called first world rich country. Forget London, Tokyo, Paris, Shanghai, etc. If you should do a video on the Delhi Metro and how it was progressed in around only 20 years of existence. How it has progressed in around only 20 years of existence. A developing country with tons of issues and over 1.4 billion people would put Toronto transit projects to shame. Yeah, see, that's the thing. That's the only comparison we have, right? I mean, we have these other lines that we see, whether it's in China, Europe, India, you name it. All of them are getting built, and they're being built for a lot less money, and they're being built a lot faster. We are not only behind as a city, we are also behind in terms of how we manage these projects, quite frankly. So yeah, I completely agree with that. Next we have Dimitrios Safaropoulos 799, who writes, aren't they finished the tunneling? I remember seeing that somewhere. I'm not. I think they are. I think the line is pretty much. They are done the tunneling. I didn't say that they weren't done the tunnel. Well, the tunneling. Oh, we're talking. Yeah. I'm actually. I'll have to double check that. Let me make a note for myself about that, because I'm not sure. Are they done? Let me write this down. Check if they are done the tunneling for the Eglinton West LRT extension. There we go. So I will check. That is an interesting question and a good question. Next is C. Bagut, who writes, one problem I have with the Eglinton LRT is that the east section is not grade separated, so it will slow down the entire rest of the line, which was grade separated, making all that tunneling and elevated track useless in terms of frequency, since all the trams will be stuck in the east waiting for cars. I hope they find a way to solve this, but I doubt it. Well, they're not going to be able to solve that. Well, I mean, that's kind of a bit of a different topic. We are talking about the Eglinton West extension, Eglinton West LRT extension. So it's kind of a bit of a different topic, but I mean, it's not, we're not going to be able to fix that after the fact now, will we? I mean, it is going to be the way it is at this point. For whatever reason, they decided that the best thing to do was to just make it so that the LRT would be above ground, from basically Leslie going eastwards. So it is what it is now. Triangulin 22 writes, it would be nice if they could get this built like now. Doug Ford loves highways and not public transit. Well, I mean, Doug Ford does love highways. I mean, what was that highway he's putting up? 40 something, 40, not 403, 408 or something, or 4, no, 412. That's what he wants to put north of the city. And there's a lot of opposition to that. And I don't know. I, I'm kind of mixed about it. I mean, on the one hand, we do need more infrastructure built. I'm not sure how big of a priority that highway should be. I know that Doug Ford is doing quite a bit in terms of building a lot of transit, though, too. So I don't think that's really necessarily fair to say. But, I mean, it seems that the 412 up north, and I forget where it's running to and from. I don't live in that area, so I wouldn't, I can't recall. But I know that there's a lot of opposition to it because there's a lot of people that think that it shouldn't be built because of farmland and greenbelts, etc. But anyways, different topic. So, in a dark tavern, writes, if they also extend line 6 to Pearson, they can turn line 5 and line 6 into just one line 5, and making Pearson a crucial connection point. Yeah, that is true. So they could just loop it around and then run it back. But I mean, it's kind of tomatoes. I think I remember commenting and replying to this, and what I said was that they really should keep it 2 lines. I mean, I get what you're saying, and they probably will do that. There probably will be some interconnection between the 2 lines if they both do go to Pearson. And I imagine that in something like, I don't know, 20 years, it will. However, I will say this. Line 5 and line 6 should have different names, though. Let's be clear. Because they shouldn't have the same name, because there'll be just too much confusion. People need to be able to differentiate where they are, whether they are on Eglinton Avenue or on Finch Avenue. So I just will say that, though. So, anyways, moving on. P. Wingert, 1966. Let's go to read more. I'll highlight the whole thing. Let's see what this says. So, not one of the 5 LRT lines that have been started or continued in the last 8 years is operational. Each new line that is started has a price tag of at least double per kilometer of the previous line. Yeah, that is a big issue. That is a huge issue, and not enough people are paying attention to this. Not enough people. People are always wondering why taxes are so high, and where the money is going. Well, it's time to pay attention to what's going on, because this requires more scrutiny, I think. The Eglinton West is about $674 million per kilometer, and the Eglinton East LRT is over $1 billion per kilometer, and neither of them is up or running. Likely they may not be operational till the end of the year, given legal issues by the third-party contractors. Yeah, that was an issue that was raised, and I addressed that in a video. That is a baked-in part of the strategy by the government. Ensure that the project issues guarantee that the parties go to court to skim the cream off the project cake, and ensure the third-party contractors get their bonus from the government. Well, I definitely think that there's a lot of ripping off going on. I think that there's a lot of waste and abuse going on behind the scenes that we don't get to necessarily see. And I think a major issue here is transparency. That we're not being shown where that money is going, line by line. Who's getting how much money, for what. That should be disclosed to the public. And that's what should be fought for, because that's where everything will begin and end. Or at least begin. Because that way we could actually start looking into what happened here. Where did the money go? Who did it go to? And why? Right now we can't do that. And we should be able to. This is government money / taxpayer money, right? So this should be transparent. It's not, well, go mind your own business. That is completely our business, and I don't think that there's been enough push for that, and I think that there should be more. While it's not a kickback, it feels like it is a deliberate part of the overall process. All 5 lines are currently in court, and the results could be tens of millions of extra dollars being paid out. Yeah, and this is another thing, right? It's this whole process with the court system and everything else. It's really It's draining out more time, and it's going to drain out more money. Who's paying for that? Well, we're paying for that. We're going to pay for it, and I'll tell you why and how. Going to court, the government is going to have to defend themselves. That's going to cost money, right? We're paying for the courts. We're paying for the defense, or we're paying the court fees, the legal fees rather, and that's just all extra on top of Well, let me just make sure that I loop this video. Loop. Okay, there we go. So that we keep staying on that video. Okay. So next over here we have, oh, there's 4 replies. I'm going to look at the replies here. Paid out from taxpayers' pockets. Yeah, absolutely. And so Bill Daver, 9389, writes, the idea was to build them all at once, so of course none are open. The only problem, child, is the Eglinton LRT, which should have been a full subway. I completely agree. And I think that we're going to definitely find that out, that is the case. And I think that that's going to, within the next few years, become apparent. I think that after the Eglinton line opens, I think that we're going to find out that it wasn't worth what we paid for and waited for. Unfortunately, I think that we're going to find that out the hard way, and I think that we're going to find out sooner rather than later. They inherited it, and some elements needed to be re-engineered, and some of the underground utilities had not been accurately mapped. Yeah, no, there had been construction issues with it. I don't know the specifics in particulars, but there definitely have been construction issues. The Ontario subway line is huge as the new East Don Transit Hub. Finally, Toronto will have a full-scale transit system and not just lines here and there. $70 billion worth of construction. Yeah, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money being put into these things. They better get done, and they better get done fast. I mean, we're going to be waiting a long time for this stuff to get done. The Eglinton LRT is going to open sometime within the nearly distant future, this year, perhaps, as Doug Ford is now promising. But the Ontario line is unfortunately not expected to be completed until 2030, 31, something in and around there. Yeah. And Sean Rogers, 1839, writes, never attribute to malice what can best be attributed to incompetence. Massive incompetence here. I think there's both. I mean, I don't know if we should really make a distinguishment. I can't speak. A distinguishment between those two things, right? I mean, whether there's incompetence or whether it's malice, I mean, I know there's some difference between it, but at the end of the day, what matters is it's not done, right? And for the people that are missing out on good transit in the city, and where this is essentially just not doing the public any good and not serving the public, you know, those people, they're not going to care about why, right? People, in that sense, it makes no difference. But I do agree that it's a bit of both, right? And I'll put it this way: the government is incompetent, but the people that were building it were not. But the government was responsible for this. So the malice, I would put that blame at the feet of the people, at the contractors, because they would, of course, they're milking it, but they're being allowed to milk it because the government is allowing for that to be done because of their incompetence. So kind of a hair split there between the two, but yeah. Okay, so next we have JPP 7783. There should have been a moratorium until they can get the Eglinton line working. 5 years late and billions of dollars over. I don't know whether we should put a moratorium on building other transit lines because the Eglinton line is not complete. I mean, I don't think that it would have served the public interest or our interests to hold off on making new construction projects just because the Eglinton line was not done. The world keeps spinning and life goes on. And I do think that other construction projects and other transit projects still need to be going forth, even though there's problems with the Eglinton line. Stopping I don't think that it would benefit us to stop other projects while we sort out what is going on with the Eglinton LRT line, just because I don't think that it really affects other lines as much. I don't think that every situation is the same. I don't necessarily think that the mistakes learned from the Eglinton LRT can all necessarily be applied to all these other projects. Now, I may be wrong, but we shouldn't just pile everything into one. I mean, these are different projects managed by different subcontractors, if I'm not mistaken. Metrolinx is overseeing it all. But I don't think that we should stop all construction just because of issues that we're having just with the one line. That doesn't make any sense to me. So next we have You Betcha 6880 that says, someone please explain to me why this extension is almost entirely underground when the road is so wide. This needs to open, yes, but not underground. Oh, hang on a second. Why not underground? Why would we want something great? Why would we want it running at surface level? Wouldn't that just slow it down? I mean, it would be cheaper. It would be faster, presumably, to put it at surface level. But I mean, now that we're there, I mean, going underground does have its advantages. And I don't believe that the whole thing is underground. The airport part, I'm sure, is not underground. I think that's a street level. Correct me if I'm wrong. I have to look into those details. But I know that parts of it are above ground because there is a bridge that they were making over on the west end there. So for sure, not all of it's underground. But I don't know. I think that there will be some pushback about making it street level all the way through. And don't forget that where the Eglinton LRT will terminate on the west end, that is below ground as well. So it just makes sense to continue going underground at that point. So next we have Dwayne, the Bathtub 951, that writes, let's see them actually get the original section of the tracks working before trying to expand on the money pit it has become, if not open by July 1st. Turn it into bike lanes. Yeah, I don't think that we could turn it into bike lanes. I think that's a whole different controversy all on its own. I think that there's enough controversy over bike lanes as it is right now in the city. I don't think that could be even possible to do, but let's get back to the part about the money pit. Well, okay, well, for it being a money pit, again, maybe there's lessons to be learned, but that doesn't mean that we could just stop all construction for it. Okay, so Weeder 1555 says, this LRT has the most over-engineered and ugliest overhead catenary wire system ever. Maybe, I haven't seen it. Most over-engineered. Yeah, I mean, maybe it does. We'll have to see the final product once it's done. I'm not sure which one you're referring to. Are you referring to the Eglinton West line altogether, or the Eglinton West extension? Because that's what this video was about. Okay, so thank you for your comments. Let's go to the next video. And that will be the extension of Yonge. East Harbor, Finch LRT. Tentative tax prices, no. Next video was Yonge, the Yonge extension. I think I missed it. Latest, there we go. That's what I wanted to, that's what we're going to look at. So this is the, let's see the title here. The latest update on the Yonge North Subway extension. So let's take a look at this. I'll play it, put it in loop. And then let's go over to your comments and see what you have to say. Eglinton, Western Ontario line. Latest update, North Yonge extension. There we go. Okay, so let's see what you had to say here about the Yonge North extension. So 46 comments. Let's get started. So first we have decent sacked player that wrote, I just hope that the TTC Metrolinx doesn't pull a Shepherd line, meaning that they speed way too much on, or spend rather way too much on huge and extravagant stations while making a line with very few stations to cut costs, and instead actually making the line go to areas where it would be most needed. Well, right now I think, if I remember correctly, they have at least 3 stations planned for it. It was either 3 or 5. I know there's controversy over a couple stations like at Cummer Station. I don't think that, look, it would be nice to have a station at Cummer, but I don't think it's as efficient to have it at Cummer. There's not that much traffic. It's again, nice to have, but not as efficient. There's not that much foot traffic at Cummer. I think really the extension is really designed to serve the northern part of Toronto, so up north in Richmond Hill, to be able to get people from Richmond Hill much easier connected to the northern parts of Toronto, and not just necessarily downtown, but to Finch Station, to Steeles Avenue, and to be able to connect people to transit lines in that corridor. Because see, there will be a station at Steeles for sure, which makes sense, and then 3 more stations. So if I'm correct, I don't remember now, but a few more stations up in north of Steeles. So that's still going to be a significant improvement and pretty efficient. I think that the station you're referring to, which was kind of silly, is the Bessarion station that was made along the Shepherd line, and that station did seem kind of pointless and useless. Nobody was there, ever. Yet it existed, and that was 20 years ago. But now look at it. There's condo developments, there's people going shopping there, there's an IKEA there, there's Canadian Tire. So it is certainly more used than it was before. So I think some thinking ahead is definitely called for here. Okay, so next we have the Jojo Sims, who writes, many people comment on this extension who don't live in the area. That is often the case. See the relief it would provide between Finch, a terminus built as of 1974. You read that correctly. In Yonge 407, a major commuting hub. Yes, that is absolutely true. See, that's the thing, right? It's all about where you live, and your perspective changes depending on where you live. And we have to consider the people that are living there and how it affects them and their lives. And I think that that's significant. There's a lot of people that live there that would be able to use the line. It would make a lot of sense in that regard. This connects 3 large and growing cities to Toronto via North York. Even worth it from removing all those buses between Finch and Steeles? Yes. I mean, if you've ever been there, and if you don't live in the area, if you're not from the area, so just to contextualize this, between Finch Avenue and Steeles, that is probably the busiest bus corridor there probably is in Toronto. You have nonstop. I mean, go look at it during rush hour or watch videos. I made a video about it actually at Finch Station of all the buses going in and out of there and traveling up and down the road. So basically, I mean, I think I say this without exaggeration. About every 30 seconds to a minute, there's a bus going by. You have Steeles West and East running there. You have the Comer bus running there. You have GO Transit buses running there. And don't forget that Steeles is very heavily traveled. So the Steeles bus connects the Steeles bus eastward goes all the way out to the suburbs. I believe it's out to like the Morningside area, so very hugely used route. And then you have the Steeles Avenue West bus that goes out all the way to, not only York University, some go just to York University, and then others go even past that all the way out to Etobicoke and then to the border of Mississauga. And these are very heavily trafficked bus routes. So there's a lot of buses. You have articulated buses and whatnot that are going up and down there, and that is a very, very densely trafficked bus corridor there along Yonge Street between Finch and Steeles Avenue. So I would imagine that this extension, if it's done, when the subway extension is completed, that this will take at least 20 buses off the road. Okay, so that's quite a bit. I'm just kind of throwing that out as a number, but it's enough buses to create at least 1 or 2 other bus lines in the city that can better serve other communities and be put where they may be more needed. All right, so moving along. So Duploman003, many uploads in a row. Yeah, sometimes I do. I'm very random with my uploads. It's really what I have time for. Some days I have time, some days I don't. It's just, I feel like it. Some days I need a break. I'm very random. I don't follow a schedule. I'm all over the place. And just so you know this, I'm typically up overnight making these videos. I don't make, like, it'll be like literally I will work on videos from midnight until 5 in the morning. So that's when I make the videos. That explains a lot of the fumbling and stumbling, by the way, on the videos that I make. I'm very random with my times, and I just do them as I kind of feel like it. And sometimes I'm more in the mood and have the energy for them and the time than others, and that's just how it is. So Mr. Lishi73 says, let me go to read more. Efficiency and reliability. Are you sure that you are talking about a part of Toronto's public transit network? Listen, you know what? Go to some other cities. Travel around. I'm not talking about New York, Paris, Tokyo, and all these big ones. Just let's talk about Canada. Let's stay here in Canada. Talk about other cities in Canada. Have you seen Halifax? Have you seen Winnipeg? Have you seen the transit systems in other cities? Toronto is generally very served by transit. Does it have its problems? Yes. Is the subway a problem? Yes. Is it a problem when things don't go well? Yes. But don't forget something. Number one, we have a very good bus network. Now I know people don't want to hear about that over and over again about how good our bus network is. It is. Secondly, let's keep things in perspective. 99.9% of people that take the TTC every single day get to where they're going on time and efficiently. Okay? We have subway disruptions that affect a few thousand riders on the weekend. We have medical emergencies that take place throughout the week or even on any given day in the downtown core in Toronto. These things are sporadic. They happen in the moment, but they're pretty quickly cleared up. A medical emergency will happen. We're talking about a 30-minute to a 45-minute subway disruption. Is it inconvenient? Yes. Is it annoying and frustrating? Absolutely. But it is not the norm, but it does happen. Okay, so let's keep things in perspective. So, and on a serious note, it would be great to hear some comments in a human, so I was sick, that's why I did that. Yeah, I used AI for a little bit for a few videos. And honestly, I think that what happened is back in, it was around end of September, October, I got really sick. I'm pretty sure that I got COVID because I had like that thing where like my taste and smell kind of changed a little bit, and as we all know, that's kind of one of those things to do with COVID. Like I was sick for like 3-4 weeks. I literally got up to make a video. I did not have the energy. I couldn't talk, but I was so frustrated and bored. I just still had to make a video. So what I did is I used AI to make some of the videos just to like do something, but no, it's not the norm. That's kind of the exception. And if I get sick again, I don't want to. I like to talk on the videos. So just to be clear about that, I only used AI voice back in October just because I was sick. That's the reason I did that. Not because I was lazy, not because of that. But no, I will be using my human voice to make videos. Let's be clear. Okay, so instead we are just being red water. Nah, okay, well, okay, I think I've addressed that enough. Highway Woo 621 update, no update. Well, I don't know, I wouldn't say no update, but let's keep it in the spotlight. So next is an Enhebun Bakuka 8850. Sorry if I'm butchering all these names. That's what happens when you're using human voice. I don't dream big for Toronto to have like New York, Tokyo, London, Hong Kong subway systems, but if possible, I want one line running along Jane on the west and one line running along Victoria Park. Victoria Park, there's a street that gets ignored a lot, and it's pretty busy on the east side. I think it's 24,000 riders. Oh goodness. Oh, I'm gonna screw this up. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything. I think it's daily or weekly. Big difference, isn't it? I think it's weekly 24,000 riders or something like that. Like a pretty large amount that take Victoria Park. I forget the stats now, even though I did a video about it, but that was like a year and a half ago, so I don't remember. But anyway, so Victoria Park on the east. These two streets are the main arteries on two sides. So which was the other one? Jane Street. Yeah, no, it's absolutely so Jane Street is the main artery. So's Dufferin, so's Keele. Well, Keele somewhat. Victoria Park is a main artery. Don't forget Don Mills. But the Ontario line is going to kind of make that half happy because it will go up to Eglinton. I mean, I don't know why we're not just connecting it to the Shepherd subway like now, going up north all the way up to connecting it to Fairview. Why aren't we doing that? Who knows? I think we should, shouldn't we? But in any event, let me move on here. Excuse me. Are the main arteries on both sides are always jam-packed? Yeah, that's a lot of the north and south. That's happening, and there's a lot of streets like that can be brought up as examples. The third line should be along Steeles. Well, we haven't gotten there yet. Listen, why don't we? We should have a subway everywhere, right? But I mean, we can't just do it all at once. People work here, they come to work and come home with heavy traffic every day. No, Steeles is definitely so. If you don't ride, I mean, I've seen it, and if you don't know this, you don't ride in it. It's very true that, especially on Finch East and Steeles East, the traffic going especially eastbound in the evenings is horrendous. I mean, you are stuck in the bus for like an extra hour. I've seen the same thing on Shepherd Avenue. It's happening all over the place. But unfortunately, we got to take this kind of step by step. We really are behind with transit. The more you look into this and the more you think about it. I mean, the traffic along these major roads, especially in these areas, is just horrendous. And what's the alternative? People getting stuck on their cars on the DVP? Well, they're already, the cars are already sitting there like they're in a parking lot, bumper to bumper on the DVP. So, you know, transit's going to be the only solution for that. If possible, then join Shepherd Line. Yeah, that's the relief line for the northern part. Yeah, I don't understand why they built something that's left unfinished for so long. Yeah. That's exactly what I was talking about. Yeah. Right, totally agree. So next we have Ari, the nine-tailed fox, 3535. I hate how Redditors complain about this project being pointless and a waste, and that it should go up to Steeles. But they don't know about the design, the designated roads for YRT Viva Bus ends at Richmond Hill Center. Yeah, that's the thing. Well, it's a jurisdictional thing, right? Because Viva Bus, so Toronto, they would have had to collaborate with Toronto, and they would have had to make the Viva Bus. And this would have been a smart idea. Now that you think about it, now if we think about it, it would probably made a lot of sense to make a bus corridor like a BRT, like two dedicated bus only lanes going down the center of Yonge Street from Finch to Steeles. I never even thought about that. I think that would have been very smart to do. However, what I was going to say is Yonge Street and that stretch of Yonge Street is not in Toronto's jurisdiction, and that's probably why it didn't happen. Bad planning. That's all I can say about that. And the center has 8 to 9 different bus routes, while Yonge Street is being urbanized vertically. Truly ignorant and selfish people. Well, I don't know about selfish, but ignorant by planners and politicians, that I would agree with for sure. So moving on. Mirror R3 FL3 action. I know it's not feasible anytime soon, but Toronto seriously needs to double track the Yonge University and Bloor subway so the TTC could run express trains that only stop at interchange stations, and so normal trains could be diverted when repairs are needed on specific sections of the normal track. That would be a good idea, and today that would apply. I wouldn't say it would be impossible to do, but I would say this: nobody's talking about it. Nobody's considering it. Nobody's considering that. That would be a huge undertaking to even add just one additional track there. And it would be complicated to do. And remember how old the subway is. My goodness. Don't forget that the subway from Union to Eglinton was built in 1954. Okay? Think about that for a moment, right? And in 1954, nobody was thinking about how big Toronto would be in 50, 60 years. I mean, that would be like a new city that would be like Barrie right now, planning streets, or somewhere like an hour, 2 hours away from Toronto, like a city like Guelph or Barrie, planning new streets with creating subway lines underneath and BRT lanes. People would be like, well, why are you doing that, right? So it kind of seemed like overkill at the time that it was made, right? And really, at the end of the day, we've just become a city that's become over capacity. We've just grown so much, and infrastructure has been left behind. I don't necessarily think that the answer would be to create to double track. It's a good idea. Listen, from an efficiency standpoint and from a viability standpoint, not viability, but I mean, in some ways, it is practical. It would be practical today. And it wouldn't be a bad idea, I wouldn't say necessarily. But what I would say is that it's not happening. It's not happening. Nobody's even talking about that. We need to find other ways to get people around. For example, using GO trains. For example, using. I mean, and honestly, I mean, like, why are we transiting everybody through downtown anyways? Why can't we go to other parts of the city? I mean, why does everything have to be centered around Union Station all the time? I realize that it's the hot spot for where everybody goes to travel, but I mean, people need to kind of expand. I think that the GTA needs to expand a little bit more in the sense that people need to go to other places, and attractions need to be a little bit more spread out so that people aren't all coming and going from one same place all the time. So, okay, moving on. So, famatory rights. It feels goofy to be spending money on extending Line 1 into Richmond Hill instead of being the Doncaster Diamond flyover and making the RH Richmond Hill GO line viable. You'd get a lot more coverage per dollar, even if on the whole, it would, even on the whole, it would be more expensive. I think maybe you mean not as expensive. I'm not sure what you mean there. But anyways, so addressing what you're really the overarching point of what you are talking about. So I made a video about that, I think like almost 2 years ago now, where I suggested that I thought that GO trains and GO train service on the Richmond Hill line should be extended. And I suggested that some parts of it should be double tracked, or creating a bypass at stations or somewhere where trains could easily go up and down, north and south, and increasing frequency. I mean, for goodness sakes, that train comes like hourly. Folks, hourly. on the Richmond Hill line, just so you know, if you don't live in the area, that train from Richmond Hill going downtown operates 3 times a day, well, 4 times. They added a 4th trip. So it used to be, so at Old Comer Station, which is close to where I live, you have 3 trains, 6:30, 7:30, and 8:30. I mean, heaven forbid you miss a train, right? Heaven forbid you miss your train. So now they added, so recently, I think it was about a year and a half ago, they added 1 more train, which now offers a service, I believe it is at 8 o'clock. A 4th train is now stopping at Old Comer and what's the other station just south of there? Oriel Station. And so we have that improvement. But there was a video that I made about the fact that I think that they should really expand the tracks. Expand the tracks. We'll double track in certain locations where trains could bypass, and so you'd have 1 train, because this is a ridiculous thing, right? A train will go down. We have a yard up in the north, just south of Bloomington, that all the GO trains originate from and return to in the evening. Now, what happens is that they move a train into Bloomington in the morning. That train goes downtown for the Richmond Hill for the 6:30 train. 6:30, like as in stops at Old Comer at 6:30 train, goes downtown. That train then, I don't know what it does. Maybe it's used on a different line. Maybe it's just sits somewhere. I don't know what happens with that train. Then you have a second train. Then the next train, an hour later, is taken out of Bloomington, goes up to Bloomington Station, goes down. And this pattern continues in the morning, and then in the rush hour they return. I think this is insane. Why can't we have it be so that the first train goes down and then backtracks on the single line? I don't know. They have, and there is space there. In my opinion, and an assessment, there is space at, for example, Old Comer GO Station to double track that section of the track there, where 2 trains would be able to bypass each other, have that train go back, and then have continuous service that way. And maybe make it, I don't know, with a frequency of every 30 minutes. And I don't know why they don't just do this. I don't understand how this interferes that much with freight train activity. I don't understand how this would interfere that much with all the other train traffic that uses the line. And by the way, the Canadian, the Via Rail's Canadian leaves, and I'm just kind of pointing this out just as a fun fact, that Via Rail's Canadian train runs on that track. I just thought that was really cool because I just caught it there once. But anyways, coming back to the point, I actually thought that would be a better idea to actually, it would make more sense, since the GO stations are up in Richmond Hill anyways, to have more trains running on that line than creating the subway extension. Now, would I argue against the subway extension? Maybe not particularly. I think that there needs to be, either way, better transit from Richmond Hill into downtown Toronto. I certainly agree with that. Maybe the controversy and the argument is over how that should be done. However, having said that, I really do think that the GO train is being underutilized. Okay, so moving on. Mark F5931 writes, how will the extension handle the additional load usage from intensification? Yes, that is one of the points that I brought up in the video that I made up, because what happens is that a train up, like for example in Richmond Hill, will start off, get full of passengers, and then come down. So here's the thing. It's kind of a bit of a nuanced argument, because you see, it wouldn't affect intensification as much, just simply for two reasons. Number one, there are eventually going to be more people as we get a bigger population up in in Richmond Hill. As population increases there are going to be more people traveling south for sure. So there will be intensification. But let's say that the line opened today. There will be the same amount of people getting on at the station at Finch on that subway, because those people are just coming up from Richmond Hill, right? So intensification, maybe not so much a problem today. Eventually it will be, as population booms. Then the other thing is that, remember too, as far as this intensification thing goes, people get off at, a lot of people coming from Richmond Hill, don't forget, get off at Finch Station and go east and westbound on either the Finch West or Finch East buses. And some also transfer at Steeles to go east and west at Yonge and Steeles. So there is that as well. But continuing on here. Condos planned on Yonge north of Steeles, Langstaff Gateway, and all those commuters from Richmond Hill Markham parking at the terminal to take TTC. Southbound on line 1. The morning TTC southbound will be packed by Finch Yonge. Well, it already is packed. I mean, we're not going to see more. I mean, we're going to see the same volume of people going up, not the same, but we will see the intensification either way. Whether this subway is built or not, we will see the intensification. The morning TTC commuter experience will be even more of a zoo. Yeah, it already is pretty much a zoo up there. I mean, if you've ever been to Finch Station, and here's a shot of it right here in the morning. This is I took this in the morning. I think this was at like 6 in the morning, 6:30, something around there. It was pretty busy and really packed. If you've ever been there in the morning, it is absolutely just jam-packed. Every single train that leaves there we go again. See bus after bus after bus. I mean, it's insane. Look at this. This is at 7 in the morning, right? Yeah. But look, I mean, Kipling is no different. Kennedy Station is no different, right? They all look like this, right? These are all kind of like major hubs for people connecting in and out of the system, right? Yeah. So Sir Bob Laws writes, they're slow rolling this extension because they do not want it to be completed before the Ontario line, nor should they. I'm not sure that they're not rolling it out because of the Ontario line. I think that they're kind of like going one step at a time kind of thing, and they don't want to be building 50. We just don't have the resources literally to be building 20 subways at once, I think, is part of the issue as well. And I don't think that there's enough boring machines. I think that they're going to have to use the boring machine that they're using, the boring machines that they're using right now, that are currently deployed on the Ontario line and the Scarborough subway extension. I think they're going to have to use those to do the boring. So I think that they don't even have the capability of doing it now. I don't think it's necessarily politics. Anyways, one of the main objectives of the Ontario line is to relieve Yonge at major choke points such as Bloor and Eglinton stations. Yes, it is. It's not the topic of this video, but yes, it is. The Ontario line is good, and that is a good point, though. While it's not the topic of this video specifically, that is a very good point and relevant, because And I think that has to be taken into consideration, that the Ontario line will provide some relief to the Yonge subway line. But remember that that will only be from Eglinton to the south, right? Because as it's planned right now, the Ontario line will stop at Eglinton and Don Mills. I think it should have gone up to Sheppard right away. Why not? But whatever, is what it is. Next we have Jeffrey Lee, 5199. At Sheppard and Yonge, the east-west station was originally to go below the Yonge line, but no, it was put above as it was cheaper. Wait a second. At Sheppard and Yonge, the east-west station was originally to go below the Yonge line. Okay, it made the station an absolute mess. If going north of Steeles, best start putting in short turns at more stations. Well, that requires thinking. I don't get your point. I don't know what you're talking about there. Yeah, sorry. I don't know what you mean when you say that the Sheppard and Yonge, so Sheppard and Yonge east-west station. Oh, okay, so on the Sheppard line was originally to go below the Yonge line. Well, it did go below the Yonge line. But no, it did go below. Like, are you talking about... You're not talking about the bus platform. But the station did go below. I don't get what you mean. Anyways, moving along. Ian Chissy writes, I really wish the plan to push the Yonge subway north didn't result in terminating the York BRT at Richmond Hill Center. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, I really think that they should have brought the BRT. I mean, I think that that's one thing though, right? I mean, I think that they've been planning for and waiting for this northern extension into Richmond Hill from Finch for a long time, and I think that may be one of the reasons they did not put a BRT there going into Finch Station, is because they've been planning this for a while, and that kind of makes sense because it's going to intersect with Highway 7, which has the BRT. So that's all kind of, the picture there is kind of all coming together. We know line 1 goes down all the time and will continue to go down all the time. You're talking about reliability, I think. So we should plan to have some basic parallel surface capacity. That is a good point. I mean, what happens when the subway goes down? Shuttle buses come in? I mean, what should we do? What should we do exactly? Should we put in a BRT all the way from Union Station to Steeles just in case the subway goes down? I don't think anybody's going for that. But I mean, you know, right now we're stuck with what we have, which is buses that are going to shuttle people around when the subway goes down. But it doesn't happen that much. Listen again, 99% of the time the subways are running. Okay, they're running. Okay, I don't think that it's worth it to put in a BRT all the way, to have a secondary mode of transportation just because the subway goes down every once in a while. But they can organize that better, I will say that. So moving on, AK says, they better take care of the subway LRT coverage inside the city rather than expanding the subway outside of it. GO Train rail network should be expanded to take care of suburbs. Absolutely. My point exactly. Thank you. And next is the JoJo Sims. I understand they messed up on the soil testing. Oh yeah, this is kind of like one of those smaller details. We won't get into that now. And had to redo it, delaying the RFP progression. Needs to get resolved before. I'm in the area and can confirm that they are redoing testing. They did it in 2023. I'm already expecting this at least to be done not before 2035, if not longer. Yeah, well, they haven't even really started the project, so I mean, I don't know. I don't think we could expect anything. We don't know what to expect. Let's put it that way, because they haven't even put shovels in the ground, so to speak, yet for the Yonge extension. But I'm very sure that it will be happening. Oh my goodness, Nouvelle Cost. Okay, you'll have to forgive me. I'm not going to go through this whole thing. All right, let's see if I could just get the gist of your point here. Okay, so I generally like the project, but what I'd like even better is if instead of extending the subway, they made it a GO line. Yeah, again, what I said, and again, I made a video about it 2 years ago. I just didn't want to remake the video all over again, but that was what I suggested, was expanding the GO service of Richmond Hill line. Yeah. The tunnel would run all the way from Union up to Finch underneath the current subway, providing express service and relieving congestion similar to London's Crossrail or Paris RER. Then extend to where the... Wait, I'm not understanding this. The tunnel would run all the way from Union up to Finch underneath the current subway, providing express service and relieving... Oh, we're getting back to the making a whole new tunnel. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Look, one day the reality is this. I mean, look, I don't think that's gonna happen. I think that the answer is going to be to build more subways that are running parallel and going east and like northeast and northwest from Union Station. That makes a lot more sense. Okay, I think we need to move away from this idea that we should expand the Yonge University line to accommodate 18 lines of subways. Okay, I don't think that's sufficient. I think that's, with all due respect, lunacy. It makes more sense to make more subway lines that are going to be going out to the northeast and northwest, so that they're intersecting with east-west connections on either side of the city. That makes a lot more sense. But I think that's pretty much the gist of your point. So I'm going to move on. If you don't mind. Alooms says geotechnical investigation. So where's the new updates? Well, that is the new update. I mean, that was the update. I'm sorry. If you were looking for more, you'll have to wait or two back some other time. That was the update. Right now, we're just discussing the project in its entirety. So Gibbles and Bits commented... I decided to watch this video, and although I know this is an AI voice, oh yeah, we're going to go back to that, which is more and more common these days. Don't worry, it's not going to be a thing on this channel. It will not be. I noticed that the information I was listening to sounded very familiar, and I just realized that this is exactly word for word what I read. Yeah. Well, it wasn't word for word. I made some changes. I think I took excerpts from BlogTO. Find it so lazy that somebody is making a video based on something. Well, I mean, I'm basing it off of that. I wasn't, I don't think, yeah, I mean, I made some edits to it. I put in my opinions and things. But yeah, it was, I do source it from BlogTO sometimes. Yeah, it is one of my sources. Okay, so moving along, Abu Soiree J6P writes, upcoming up steps, start construction, tunneling, boring machine late 2025, and build new station 2032. Design station will add 5 new stations, Steel Station and Clark Station. Royal Orchard Station and Bridge Station of Washroom Up Surface Station, High Tech Station, New Terminal Station, Uptown Washroom, and Langstaff GO Train and GO Bus. New train storage facility, new SkyTrain Vancouver. I can't follow what you're saying. This is absolutely making no sense to me. Okay, let's move on. You betcha 6880. What an inane, or I think it's supposed to say insane project. There should be stops at Cummer and Steeles. That's any further north. Use the Richmond Hill GO. Yeah, I mean, you know what? If you're going to go up to, let's say, if they're going to extend the subway, they might as well just go into Richmond Hill. I mean, let's just face facts. I mean, you know, it's kind of one of those things where, I mean, the idea of just maybe going up to Steeles. Here's the thing. There's nowhere to put a bus look at all the bus terminals and parking lots and infrastructure that's developed around the station here at Finch and at Yonge and Finch, right? You can't do that at Steeles. That's the problem, right? So that's why you can't take the subway up to Steeles. I mean, they'd have to demolish, you know, that infrastructure just isn't there, right? Where are you going to put the bus terminals? Where are you going to put the parking lots? The people that like to drive and take the subway, right? Which, by the way, I think that's pretty cool. And it works. I mean, hey, listen, it takes a car out of downtown, okay? It takes a car out of downtown. I get it doesn't take a car out off the roads entirely, but it does take some cars off of being on downtown streets, okay? Look, the thing is, moving it to Steeles wouldn't make any sense, right? Because then all the buses would have to terminate, sort of all, you know, I don't think it'll be worth it. in the to be totally honest. Like, what would we would just have the steel? I mean, in some sense, it would make look. It wouldn't be pointless because, okay, let's say that you put an extension and you extend Finch all the way up to Steeles. You could just have a station there. Okay, let's forget the parking lots. Let's forget the big bus terminals, etc. We can keep those at Finch, and people would just come from Steeles to go there. Yeah, it would work. It would be better, but I think that this makes more sense. My personal opinion is that the subway extension into Richmond Hill makes more sense than just going up to Steeles. Just my opinion, but not all wrong either. It wouldn't be a waste just to go up to Steeles either, though. Yeah, okay, so then we have Terry Galina's 4593 that writes, high-density urban subway to low-density suburbs, taxpayer waste, not a good return on investment by design, political project. I don't agree with that at all. I don't agree with that at all. I think that makes no sense. High-density urban subway to low-density suburbs. They're not low-density suburbs. I mean, have you been to north of Steeles and Richmond Hill? That is anything but that is not low-density suburbs. We're not talking about Bloomington. We're not talking about out east of Ajax. We're talking about Richmond Hill here. Taxpayers waste? I don't think so. I don't think it's taxpayers waste at all. Not a good RO. No, I would completely disagree. 14 reply. Okay, let's see these. Duploman03, you could also see it in an extension at a region, to a region that might become more dense in the future. Building it now doesn't have to be a bad thing. Yeah, there we go. Also connecting to Go and Rapid Way is nice. Then BLXVKPXDNX writes, that's not just another street, it's Yonge Street. Finch Station had nothing around it. So did Wilson and Downsview. Yeah, I knew that there was going to be pushback against that comment. Some of the most used stations on the network, yeah. And then Abab1229 writes, yes, the Toronto area, famous for never changing. I see the stupidity of Steve Monroe's and other classist weirdos is still too influential in this region. Imagine saying something like this and expecting to not get laughed out of the room. Insane. Okay, so I guess that's I guess we'll put that in the disagree column, where I think most of us stand that it is better to make the extension. So this Jojo Smith, I disagree. Yep, there we go. This connects 3 large and growing cities to Toronto via North York. I'm willing to bet you don't live in that area to know. Even worth it from removing all those buses between Finch and Steeles. Yeah, this should have been built before Vaughan Extension. You know what? I might actually agree with that. I might agree. I might just agree with that. If you look at the densification on Yonge Street, north of Steeles there, I would definitely agree that there's a lot more density there than there is out in Vaughan. So I don't know why they chose to do it that way. I think it had a lot to do with York University, because there was so much, there's so many people going to York University, especially from Vaughan. I think they really wanted to make that kind of, I think that's why they rushed it out first. But there is more density and densification in the Richmond Hill area. So BLXVKPXDNX writes, it shouldn't have been built before the Vaughan extension, same point. Taking all those buses off of Yonge Street is going to be a game changer. Yeah, it definitely will be. It's usually people who live in Toronto who've never been, yeah, that's very true, who've never commuted for long distances talking like this. Yeah, it's true. I think you have to consider everybody's perspective, or at least different people's perspectives, and that is really a thing. I mean, you can only speak from your own perspective, right? Terry Galina's 4593, you don't already know that either denser areas have already grown and are overdue for subway. Suburbs and thinner populations get priority, hence a waste. Yeah, again, we go back to the argument of perspective, right? Ari, the nine-tailed fox 3535 writes, many students that attend the top university are Asians who reside in Richmond Hill and Markham. Go to places like U of T, Richmond Hill, and Markham. Also has the highest cost of living in the GTA, especially with home sales being the highest. So we have the most purchasing power in the GTA. Yeah, I mean, I think that we all knew that when we read that original comment it would get some pushback. It sure has. Um, yeah, well, the tax revenue that's coming out of there is definitely pretty high. There's no question about that. Um, this is not even the most egregious waste of taxpayer money. That belongs to the GO train for low-density suburb commuters who also pollute driving their cars. Yeah, again, I don't think I would necessarily agree with that. I mean, what would you suggest? That people that live out in the suburbs should just not have the GO train and should just drive downtown? I don't know. I don't think that. I don't think I would agree with that. Uh, Afrix writes, I get what you mean, though I still welcome these projects as it is an easier task to pitch an extension to the public than to pitch a new line. That's true, actually. That's very true. I don't know if anybody's ever noticed this, but if we're talking about extending a line, everybody applauds and goes, hip, hip, hooray, yes, let's go ahead and do it. Very little opposition happens for it. In fact, it seems to be very supported. As soon as we talk about a new line going in, it's a big deal, right? It seems to garnish a lot more controversy and opposition. That is true. We can also officially say that after this project, then line 1 is done. That line 1 is done. It extends past the borders of Toronto at 2 logical transit hubs. From this point on, it's up to YRT to supplement any improvements to this corridor. Yep, absolutely true. And there are, and YRT has done a great job. I mean, YRT has done a great job. I mean, look, the Viva buses are fantastic from what I've heard. I've never ridden one, but maybe I should one day, just to give it a try. But I mean, that infrastructure is not too bad and will hold up for a while. Though we still have to build much more subway infrastructure in the city, especially when it comes to denser corridors. The Ontario line's inevitable west extension would definitely be a good catalyst for the city. Yeah, again, moving out towards the northeast from Union, so taking the Ontario line, which is going to end at Exhibition Place, and then going northwest from there. Yes, that's what I see happening in the future. And and I think that makes a lot more sense than building more tunnels for the subway under line 1. All right, so that's going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for your comments and for watching. Really appreciate it as always, and I will see you next time.